But there are definitely moments where I'm like tearing my hair out and super frustrated, and my wife is just like, well, you're so annoying to be around because all you're doing is just thinking about the business, and like, you know, and then yeah, that's the other thing. Family life is a great balancer because
you know, 2 kids.
Yeah, 2 kids. Ultimately, you come home and it's like, well, like I don't really care how your day has been. Like the kids need to be bathed, they need to be in bed. Like just sort it out, basically.
Get on with it, Freddie.
Yeah, get on with it and stop feeling sorry for yourself. And then, you know, they're up at 6 a.m. the next morning. So you kind of like, you're a little bit in that flow. And I do think having a young family shows you that, you know, again, there's more to life than business, and it takes you out of that.
Hi everybody and welcome to FEBE Founder Stories, and it's awesome to be joined today by Freddie Ward from Wild Cosmetics. The reason, Freddie, I'm so excited about you being in the studio is because my wife absolutely loves your deodorants. It goes back to when we were pregnant with our first child Oscar. Really keen to find a really natural product, so worried about what she was putting into her body, etc. And therefore, as a result, I think it's safe to say our house was a bit wild crazy in terms of just your deodorants everywhere. But anyway, thank you so much for coming in.
Well, thanks so much for having me. And yeah, we just absolutely love stories like that, and really, you know, central to why we started the kind of Wild brand, and a very typical story of our customer, and you know, looking for more kind of natural alternatives, but hopefully a bit of fun in the brand, and a little bit aspirational as well was our kind of goal.
That's really interesting. You're absolutely right. There are so many different elements to the brand that you're creating. Like, the branding is beautiful. It's really nicely done. The logo is lovely. So I see what you mean about that aspirational point of view. But yeah, for us, a massive part of it was that just complete focus on natural. Babies are right. Our babies are IVF as well. So there was even more of a paranoia about, you know, not wanting to mess it up, and therefore making sure that everything that Charlotte consumed, whatever, was perfection. So thank you, Freddie. It was great.
great, and yeah, really love to hear that.
Lovely. Right, so let's get into the story. When did you start the business? So Charlie's your co-founder.
Yep.
Tell us about how you guys came together. Were you friends before? What's the story?
So Charlie and I have known each other all our lives.
So you like each other then?
We didn't actually like each other for the first half of our lives.
Really?
We were.
Was he a bit of a knob then? Or?
He just, you know, he took a bit of time to grow up. We were sort of sworn enemies at school together, and then you know, slowly over time, we probably because we've seen each other so much, we've learned to like each other and learned to get on.
That's fascinating. So sometimes you hear founders didn't really know each other, or they weren't particularly friends. You actually just did not like each other.
Yeah, I mean, this was when we were a lot younger, so sort of you know, early teenage years, which can be a difficult time for a lot of friendships. And you know, we then ended up going to university together, kind of became you know, a lot closer there.
Cool.
And
why was that? What is it you think that started to create the friendship?
I think yeah, he just, you know, we both have similar interests and similar kind of passions, and yeah, life changes a lot in your teenage years, and yeah, became really close friends.
Brilliant. Okay, and then so where did that then start with Wild?
Yeah, so, you know, both of us had been in the kind of startup world. Charlie had set up a few of his own businesses. I'd worked at HelloFresh for kind of 6 years, and
but that was an experience.
Yeah, really crazy experience, which we can jump into a bit more maybe later on. You know, I think we were both 30 and just said, right, it's now a great time to give it a go. At that point, we didn't have too many family commitments, but you know, they weren't.
It's all changed now, has it?
All changed now, yeah. Okay. Yeah. 2 kids, so a lot has changed since. But at that point, you know, the risk and the desire to kind of go and try something was kind of there, and yeah, we were just kind of excited about playing. You know, really very quickly, we said, look, sustainability is this pervasive macro trend playing out across all sectors. And you know, is a really important trend for the future of how we're going to build things. And you know, we really believe that startups inherently were going to be able to move faster, take more risks and be more authentic in building these concepts and ideas that help us remove some of the things we've become used to, particularly kind of single-use plastic, and then a lot of products that just have unnecessary ingredients or chemicals in them that, if you can use natural, why wouldn't you? So that's the kind of premise behind the brand.
When was that, Freddie?
So that was early 2019 that we started, working on the idea.
Jeez. So you've only been going just over 4 years.
Yeah. So we kind of, Charlie quit his job in August 2019, and we started sort of properly working on the business around then. We set up a little kind of minimum viable product trial towards the end of that year, just to sort of test some assumptions, see whether people even wanted natural deodorant. And that showed us that there was definitely potential in this market, but we were terrible at making natural deodorant because it didn't really work. So we closed that down. So
you learned fast then.
We learned fast. We failed fast. And
that's what they say is the thing to do, right? Isn't
yeah.
it? You cock it up as quickly as and move on.
And if anyone ever shows me that original product, I cringe of how terrible it was. And
well, funny you should just say that.
Yeah.
I'm only kidding. No, carry on.
But it was enough there to say, look, if we can actually get better at making the product, making the packaging, then there is definitely enough here. And that's kind of when we closed down that test, and we went and raised a little bit of capital, kind of Jan 2020, and then we relaunched the business in April 2020.
Brilliant. Okay. I'm just still getting back to the fact. Is it okay if I talk about your revenues?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
I mean, this year will be in the 20s.
Yeah.
Next year, end of this year, you're focusing in the 40s. That's pretty much what you're aiming for. From a business that started in 2019. Yeah, not bad, eh? I mean, I guess you probably don't have many opportunities to sit back and go, geez, yeah, we're doing all right, actually.
Yeah, my investors always want more, and they're always pushing me to kind of move faster. I think, look, there's a number of, some of it is kind of careful planning and consideration and thought, and some of it is a bit of luck. We, for example, we launched April 2020, the week the world went into lockdown. And that just happened to be a brilliant time to launch a direct-to-consumer kind of brand.
But you wouldn't have known that at the time, weren't you?
We didn't have
At the time you're thinking, right, the world's ended.
Yeah, we thought, A, the world's ended, and then we thought, B, we're geniuses because this is the best metrics you've ever seen. It
was all part of the plan.
We're going to conquer the world. We're going to be 100 million in year one. That sort of started to fade and get more complicated. But what it enabled us to do is to really get a very strong group of early customers, to really be able to get enough feedback and enough volume through the business to start making it kind of work from kind of early doors, which is the big kind of challenge. And from there, it's sort of built and kind of got us to where we are today.
So we really were early adopters of your brand then, because Charlotte was pregnant with Oscar pretty much through 2019, the end of the mid to the end.
Yeah.
So I should have asked the question: what is it that made you spot wild? I don't know. You must have been very good. What I'm trying to say is you must have been very good with the marketing pretty quickly on then.
Yeah, so I think both Charlie and I come from marketing backgrounds. So I'd run marketing at the UK arm of HelloFresh, and Charlie, done a lot of kind of marketing himself. So I suppose what's our kind of core strength? It's from that kind of digital and marketing side and really understanding that. And we really thought, very carefully about designing the product so it would, look great in that kind of new digital world, and that we could create a bit of excitement with that unboxing experience and create a bit of word of mouth. And we owe a lot to Marama, who were the kind of agency we worked with to design all the packaging, and we put a lot of time and effort into that, and that really started to kind of pay off as we got up and running.
Yeah. So can I talk about the HelloFresh experience then?
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be interesting to understand the dynamic between yourself and Charlie.
Yeah.
So in terms of what you do, but let's focus on you with HelloFresh. What did that experience teach you? What was the kind of the key nuggets that were able to hit the ground running with Wild?
My job in the year one was to go around food festivals and try and sell this kind of recipe box concept and get people to sign up on a piece of paper and then go back to the office on Monday and type in all their details, which you couldn't do for a number of reasons.
So you were a hustler and a data collector?
I was a hustler and a data collector.
Wow.
And
that's a combo.
But again, it's sort of taught you the very basics of business, of kind of learning to sell, of a bit of endurance, just going to all these events and keeping it up, and then gradually we started to make that a success, and then started to get more opportunities to grow in a company that's growing fast. That kind of sort of is the way it all sort of happens.
Wow. What's your background before that? What is
so a history degree, so nothing to do with marketing.
So you're arty.
So I suppose if I have more leaning towards that side, but kind of generally sort of had no business experience and no real I didn't even think HelloFresh was a particularly good idea. What I was really interested in was food. I loved food. I loved cooking. And I'd done a little bit of kind of sort of cooking to sort of throughout university to kind of tide things over, and so that was more. I wanted to find I wanted to go into a startup, and I wanted it to be in food, and that was the kind of remit, and that's how I ended up at HelloFresh. And the great thing I always say about startups is they've got no budget to hire. So if you find one and you apply for a job, you've got a really good chance of getting that job, because I think there were 3 people who'd found the job on some random site that no one had published. So again, before LinkedIn really had kicked off for recruitment, so it was really difficult for them to find talent with no budget at that stage.
And what about Charlie?
So Charlie, after he left university, he set up a publishing company, and he ran that kind of by himself for a couple of years.
So very lonely.
Very lonely, but had to kind of learn to be very resourceful, kind of teach himself a lot of things, coding, publishing, and
Jeez.
Built a business that could have sustained him very happily for. But he just was like, couldn't see the long-term scale in it, and also realised, I think, that he needed to go and get some proper business experience before he could go and start a business that had more scope to kind of scale. So then he worked for a company called, they're now called Nest Performance, but at that stage they worked across, they would come into high growth companies and they would help set up the leadership teams, and then they also ran probably one of the most successful Facebook marketing agencies. So he kind of learned both of those.
So he learned a lot, didn't he, from that experience then?
Learned a huge amount, and then was actually at the weekends got started up another business which was reusable coffee cups, and kind of they got to a point where I'd go over at the weekend and his whole house was just full of these coffee cups, and he was kind of sending them out, and he was like, so he's like, look,
he sounds awesome.
There's something quite interesting here, and
are you both really similar? Is Charlie more eccentric? Do you bring more are you more like the kind of steady thinker, or are you both exactly the same?
No. Charlie's very self-confident, and he's quite a risk taker, and he's very creative, and I'm probably a little bit more the kind of steady hand, try and keep things under control.
So you've got the perfect blend between you then.
Well, it kind of works. It works well. So I try and temper down his enthusiasm, and we kind of weigh each other out, and kind of so far so good. So
it's clearly a brilliant dynamic between you, because it's working with the business, right? So
I honestly don't think I could have set a business up by myself. I think having a co-founder for me has just been made the whole experience far more enjoyable. We the highs are great because you can celebrate together, and the lows you're kind of there to support each other and tell each other it's not the end of the world, and you're going to kind of make it through. And so far we're kind of very aligned, I think, on what we want to do and how we want to grow the business and the way we think, and that just means there's no kind of politics, but we also know each other well enough that we can have very robust discussions without taking kind of personal offence, and really try and challenge each other,
which I guess is
make it better.
So important, so important for a company that wants to be agile, move fast, but at the same time, you've got to do things, especially with the size that you're now creating, you've got to do it right. So I guess that honesty is really helpful between you, that you can therefore keep each other on track in the right way.
You need honesty, and the business needs clarity. So the business needs to believe that, you know, everyone's on the same mission, everyone's got the same goals, and the founders are aligned on where they're going, and they're communicating that really regularly, and they're living those kind of behaviours. And you know, I think that gets even harder as we get bigger. So we really work hard on making sure, you know, we're constantly realigning, we're constantly making sure we're going in the right direction, and that, you know, and also part of it is just we want to have some fun. You know, we'd love to build a big business. We'd love to be really successful, but you know, it's a lot of our life, and having fun and enjoying the ride is
like that possible, Freddie? Is it possible? You know, you talk about how fast this business has grown, and I guess you're under a lot of stress, and I'm sure it's very enjoyable, but you know, a lot of pressures, a lot of challenges. And I hear that a lot, you know, people say you've got to enjoy the journey. But is it always possible to enjoy the journey?
Well, I think, you know, if you go back to HelloFresh, that was a really intense experience for me, because I was very young and naive in my career, but I was given a huge amount of opportunity in a really competitive, quite cutthroat kind of environment. And you had to learn, you either learn to deal with that pressure or you know, you kind of move on. And so that taught me a lot, and I can now look back at those 6 years and go, whenever we thought the world was ending, it generally didn't end. Yeah. You know, we found a way through. Yeah. And also, you know, there are moments where you think you're going to conquer the world, and generally, you know, those never last, and there are difficult times around the corner. So I feel well prepared for that. Yeah. And, you know, so I'm much more grounded now in terms of how we think about the business, both those challenges and those opportunities. We try and blend, not try and get too high on the highs and not get too low on the lows, and keep going. And there are times when it's harder to have fun, but certainly so far we've had a lot of fun along the way. And, you know, I think that the team need to feel that. They just constantly feel you're kind of grinding results and you're not enjoying it, then, you know, they're not going to stay with you. And I think one of the biggest testaments is our whole leadership team have been with us basically now for over 2 years, and they're a just fantastic team that then infuses the rest of the culture, which has been great.
How big is the team?
About 50 people now.
50 people already?
Yeah.
I want to get onto the B Corp certification, because when did you get that? It's a relatively recent thing, is it?
Yeah, a couple of months ago.
Okay, a couple of months ago.
We've been in the process for a long time.
I hear it's a tough process, right?
Yeah, tough process, and then quite a long window of assessment. But yeah, we got there in the end, which is great.
So I'd love to focus on that, because obviously the reason for your existence is to focus on that huge sustainability in your product. But just going back to the kind of growth journey that you've been on, 2019, 2023, zero to a business that's going to be turning over more than 40 million turnover. There's fast growth, and there's there's turbo growth. How have you found that experience? And I guess what has that experience been like?
It's again, growth brings a huge amount of opportunity and kind of excitement. It also brings, there's this strange thing that the more you grow, the more, the expectations are set and the pressures are set, and you can't, I was thinking about this last night, that you can't go back to your investors and go, well, yeah, we did, 26 million last year. We're just going to calm it down a bit. We're just going to do, they're like,
we're going to chill.
Yeah. We're just going to level out.
We're going to take it all and enjoy the ride.
We're quite happy. We told you that's where we get to in 5 years. It's, you kind of get, you're in, there's this hype around it. And I think really for us, it's like, you've got to keep your feet on the ground. You can't, if anything has been learned in the last 12 months, growth can be really dangerous as well. It can, if you lose control of the business, particularly for us, again, there's a theory that growing 100% for a consumer brand is potentially not a great thing, because your margin for error on your stock management, if you miss your numbers for a couple of months in a row, and then suddenly you're sitting on way too much stock, and you've kind of misforecasted, you can find yourself in difficulty really kind of pretty quickly. So I think, look at Made.com as an example. They were 900 million IPO and then bankrupt 12 months later.
Yeah.
Because
and that was in a blink of an eye, really, in terms of how quickly that happened, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that, one of the biggest success stories from that to nothing. And, and there are plenty more of those stories from COVID and from, the market in the last 12 months. So I think coming out of COVID and the really difficult year consumer have had across the kind of sector has been a real eye opener for us. And it's like you're never safe. And
is that how you feel?
Yeah, you should never feel successful, because the day you think, oh, we're so successful, we're doing so well, is the day you lose focus and you lose discipline, and you have to be more and more focused and more disciplined as you get bigger, because the margin for error, the numbers are just all a lot bigger, and you can get yourself into hot water, but very, very quickly. And so it's kind of a weird thing where the growth the growth is fun, but it comes with a lot of strings, and it doesn't necessarily take away any of the issues. It just, a lot of them, it makes it harder. But the other side of that is I love the challenge, and I always said, one of the things, if I don't do anything else, what I want to come out of Wild is that I've really learned, I've developed as a person, and I've learned, and I'm learning a huge amount at the moment, just going through all these different phases and seeing all the, having to solve the problems and figure out how we get around the next bend or the next growth hack or kind of whatever. And that's, I always try and remind myself that when things are a bit harder.
That's a question, because as mere mortals, when I get a problem, the stomach acid is high. I'm like thinking, oh my gosh, the catastrophizer comes out in me. This is the end. I guess your thinking is, from what you're saying, is, well, actually, it's a challenge. We've got to deal with it. I mean, is there a way that you can change your mindset to make sure that you don't go into to waving the flag and go into complete breakdown mode? How do you stay focused and not let it get to you? Because I'd imagine you're getting some pretty big challenges on a regular basis. With the fact you're growing so fast.
Yeah. And like, there's this weird cross, because stress is a good thing, and pressure can bring out the best in people. Look at, sports people, when they're in the most intense situations, you get the best from your team. And so it's kind of learning not to kind of totally try and remove stress from the environment, but also, when things really get tough, or you're kind of really bang your head against a brick wall, you don't take it out on your team, and you don't transfer, like, I think a lot of, you look at great football managers, when their team are underperforming, they take that pressure and they try and keep their team calm and focused, and just one step in front of the other, and that's kind of how I try and think about it. And again, but there are definitely moments where I'm like tearing my hair out and super frustrated, and my wife is just like, well, you're so annoying to be around, because you're just all you're doing is just thinking about the business, and like, and then that's the other thing. Family life is a great balancer, because
you got 2 kids.
Yeah, 2 kids. Ultimately, you come home and it's like, well, like, I don't really care how your day has been. Like, the kids need to be bathed, they need to be in bed. Like, just sort it out, basically.
Get on with it, Freddie.
Get on with it and stop feeling sorry for yourself. And then, they're up at 6 a.m. the next morning. So you kind of like, you're a little bit in that flow. And I do think having a young family shows you that, again, there's more to life than business. And it takes you out of that, I think in my 20s, I loved it, but I was so, working late every night and working weekends and totally all encompassing, and, really going up and down all the time with the success or failures of the business. Whereas now it's sort of, I try and get home every night for bath time. I try and do the nursery run in the mornings a couple of days a week, so it kind of, I think it's a great leveler being a dad as well.
Cool. So let's move on to the B Corp certification that you 2 months ago. You got
a couple of months ago.
A lot of work going into that. It's not an easy process, is it? Because it's a fantastic badge to get.
Yeah.
What was it like getting it then, and why was it? Obviously, I mean, it's so important to you, but what does it mean to the business to have that?
I think it's just like, it's very easy for businesses to claim things, and consumers are getting smarter about that, and it's really hard to find ways to make yourself accountable in decisions if there's no kind of consequence to the way you've made those decisions. So what B Corp gives you is a really great framework of, this is what good looks like, and this is what the future of business needs to look like, and these are all the things you need to think about, and it's not it's not just sustainability or being sustainable. It's like, how are you looking after your people? How are you managing the business? How are you thinking about diversity and inclusion? How are you thinking about your customers? How are you thinking about your kind of stakeholders? And it's it's just a really good exercise to formalize what basically running a good business kind of looks like. And we find it, as I said, a great kind of guidance, and it's also a journey. You can't be great at everything, particularly when you're a startup. It's just not the reality. So you have to prioritize and figure out, okay, where do we see the biggest opportunities, and how can the B Corp process highlight some of the areas that we need to kind of work on and develop to become the business that we want to be. And I always say to the team that I want to be judged on kind of where we've got to in 10 years, not necessarily where we are at any point in time. So it's kind of all about that long-term journey. And I think B Corp is getting the certification and stuff, that's all exciting and good, but I think the real stuff comes in when you have to recertify 3 years later, and it's like, where were you and where have you got to, and are you continually being able to develop and evolve as a business with the world around it, and that's really motivating for us as a team.
I'll tell you, we'll make a date, 2033. We'll get you back in the studio, and we'll see
how we're doing.
We'll see what the answer is.
Yeah, exactly. See where we got to.
But it's interesting because obviously you set this business up because you wanted to create an incredibly sustainable product. You knew that it was the way forward in terms of also achieving, because that's ultimately what business is about. It's about success. It's about creating profit and using that profit to do great things with, right?
Yeah.
But do you feel a sense of pride in terms of that, I know you're saying judge me in, but you must feel that you're ticking off some great stuff here and creating a great impact. It must feel good.
Yeah, we're definitely doing a lot of good stuff, and it's kind of motivating, but it's also, that's where all businesses are going. We're just probably a little bit ahead of the curve because we've been able to start afresh and put it in. But I don't think Wild will be especially unique. I think a lot of companies are on that journey. They're just moving at different paces and different things, and it's up to the startups to be out in front. One of our reasons for existence is that we're pushing boundaries and trying stuff that then feeds up eventually into larger companies when they see that they work or that they consumers want them. And I think for us, what's been exciting is that we show that there is a bigger demand than people think for sustainable and natural products, but people aren't really willing to compromise on the way the product performs, the way the brand makes them feel, and kind of the whole user experience. And so what we're most excited about of Wild is kind of connecting. You've always had a group of consumers who are really sustainable, really focused on green brands, and just really clued up on what they do, and they're very well catered for. That's been a great market, and they're wonderful group of customers. That's not really the customer that Wild is trying to tap into. What we're trying to tap into is this growing section of society who kind of sit between people who don't really care about any of that stuff, and this kind of other consumer who cares about everything, but they know that they should be shopping more sustainably. That they're kind of experimenting maybe with more organic, natural foods, and kind of being more careful about what they're putting in their body and their skincare routines. And we're just trying to make that as accessible and as I said, a little bit aspirational or fun, so people they want to buy these brands rather than feeling pressurized into doing it. And that's kind of where Wild wants to go. And I'm quite clear, actually, Wild's aim is not to be the most sustainable business in in our sector. That's not what we're trying to achieve.
Interesting.
If you want to be really sustainable, you should probably make deodorant at home or not wear deodorant at all.
Well, as someone said to us recently, just sit in the field naked.
Yeah, exactly. So that's not really, we're never going to compete with that. And we completely respect and are like people who can do that, phenomenal, but that's just not the reality. What we're trying to be is like a materially more sustainable product to your everyday product. So we if you have a Dove or a Shore or whatever, what we want to do is say, look, if you buy Wild, it's going to be much better for the planet, and it's just going to be using simple natural ingredients. So there's no kind of nothing you need to be worried about in there at all. And if we can be materially better than them on those criteria, then I think there's a really interesting group of customers that can do it. And that's how we make big change rather than kind of still never breaking out of that green eco niche, which I think has been one of the challenges for the kind of industry to date.
Yeah, what I love so much about when your product arrives at our home, I'm the cardboard fairy in our house. If I did not take it to the bins, who knows what would happen to it. So I find that breaking down that packaging is a big part of my life. So I love it when it comes so tightly, it's just so, it looks like it's engineered to precision how you package it all up. So there's no wastage. There's no space left.
Yeah,
I guess that's just a massive part of the whole process as well, right?
Yeah, and you get 3 at a time, so it's sort of, we're not trying to send you things all that, and possibly if we sent 1 at a time, then people would buy more. But for us, it's sort of, that's kind of part of it, and it's trying to kind of evolve and make sure you're always looking at every part of the material and every part of that journey, and trying to optimize it as much as possible to as I said, kind of be way more sustainable than a kind of aluminium spray can that arrives in a kind of box. And kind of interestingly, one thing people don't know is that I think household sprays have become one of the single biggest polluters
Really?
of our environment since we've cut down on emissions. So that there is actually just purely a really big environmental argument to move to either stick or roll-on deodorant, because you're not spraying all these propellants into the kind of environment, and it's kind of goes slightly under the radar, but I think that's just alone being a stick deodorant is way more sustainable than some of those alternatives in the market.
Right, okay, interesting. I'm going to think of that. That's what I love about these. You think of something every time that you need to start to hold yourself accountable for. So, listen, let's move on to investors. I know it's always it's an interesting, maybe sometimes difficult subject. Who knows? People have different experience with investors, but you've taken considerable investment into the business, which has obviously been a big way to grow your business.
Yeah.
What has that experience been like? What has it taught you to all of a sudden having another layer of people that you are accountable to?
So I think the first thing to say is that we have been rejected by probably over 500 investors. So
I bet they're really kicking themselves now.
Well, yeah, there's some of them. I was actually talking to a friend who's in venture capital last night, and we've been sort of out talking to people, and we still get rejected very regularly. And I always want to sort of turn the tables on them and say, so how's your performance been in the last 12 months? And like, talk me through, where your portfolio is going. Because it's been a really tough time for them, but they're just tearing your business to pieces. I kind of wish that we had a bit of an opportunity to sort of, these incredibly self-confident, they kind of can see the whole world and they know everything that's going on. But as I said, I think most of them probably should be a little bit more sheepish at the moment about their predictions for the future. So, but having said that, we've
a nice little dig there. I like that, Freddie. It's nicely done. That's what I say.
Little, yeah.
So listen, Freddie, what I'd like to do is just get to know you even a little bit better, if that's okay. So just if you'd let me indulge you with some of these questions, just going, as I say, a little bit deeper into how you tick. So, what's the best advice you've ever received?
Stay focused.
Stay focused. Yeah, that's something you said a lot.
Do one thing well. My favourite story from that is when I was in the food space. We always used to talk about this restaurant in Spain that just did egg and chips. That's all they did. Egg and chips.
Only egg and chips.
Egg and chips. but they were the best fucking egg and chips. and royalty would go and eat there, you know, celebrities would go and eat there, and they had the most amazing eggs, and they just like completely perfected the chips. And
love it.
It was just, and for me, that story has always stuck with me of just like, if you just do one thing really, really well, you can become really well known for that, and you know, perfect something to a level that no one else can, because you're just obsessed about these, you know, egg and chips.
That was the best story to bring that to life I've heard, because people talk about focus, but when you first say egg and chips, I was thinking, oh, come on, no, but you really mean it. They have created the world's best egg and chips.
Best fucking egg and chips.
That are fit for a king and a queen.
Yeah.
What was your last impulse buy?
My last impulse buy, probably my trainers, yeah.
And very nice trainers they are.
Thank you. Well, yeah, I was under pressure from the wife to move slightly old trainers, so I had to sort that out.
Brilliant. And what's your biggest business ick?
Business ick. I think for me, it's kind of long meetings with no purpose.
Okay, we're getting some amens from the guys in the audience. Yeah. Not cool, right?
Yeah. I hate meetings that drag on and aren't going anywhere, and really try and create.
So how do you stop it?
I think you kind of need to make, like, when it happens, you need to make a point and kind of walk out, or, you know, just kind of tell everyone that this is not how it needs to be done. And then also you need to be, you know, leading the way and showing people, come prepared, follow up, and, you know, if it needs to be half an hour, just make it half an hour. Don't make it an hour.
Brilliant. And what are the least likely words someone would use to describe you?
Trendy.
I think you're trendy.
They don't, and then risky. People they don't think I'm very risky. And yeah, those probably two of the words that that come to mind.
Well, you're trendy, Freddie. Don't let anyone ever tell you you're not. What's your biggest business fuck up?
Bad hiring.
Bad hiring.
Yeah. Hiring, not at Wild, just in case the team are watching this. They might be a bit upset about that. But I've made more bad hiring decisions than you can imagine, and that is the biggest killer of business.
So how have you've just gone and said at Wild you haven't done that, so how have you stopped doing
that? Interview the person, not the CV.
Okay, good advice.
I got to a point where I was like, when I was younger, and just thought, well, look at this CV, this person's amazing, they must know everything, they're going to just come in and they're going to, you know, show me the light of how to do this. And then I wouldn't really even interview them or understand them or kind of get underneath the surface. And, you know, now really try and focus on, you know, interviewing the person, getting underneath the skin, understanding, you know, a lot of their motivations and their capabilities, rather than, you know, what they've done or where they've come from.
Brilliant. Okay, and finally, what is your go-to karaoke song?
Living on a Prayer.
Bon Jovi.
Bon Jovi, there you go.
Wow. You've just gone up in my what's the word? Estimation, yeah. I love Bon Jovi, brilliant. Freddie, I have absolutely loved interviewing you. As I said, we have known, well, we must have been one of your very, very, very early adopters back in 2019.
Yeah.
And so to have
I
you...
should send your wife some new products so she can see what
brilliant, she would love that.
The new improved ones, so I'll send some your way, and some of the new things.
Well, I'm a creature of habit. Spray is my thing. I've got to hold myself accountable to that. So I've got to come over to the other side. But thank you so much for coming in the studio. So great to hear your story. My goodness, you guys are smashing it. I know you don't want to hear that because, you know, you've got a long way. You're only at base camp. You've got a long way to go. But it's been brilliant to hear how good things are going. And my goodness, I wish you all the success in the future and cannot wait to get you back here. I think we've set the date, haven't we, for 2033 to really see where you've gone to.
See what's happening.
So thanks, mate. It's been absolutely brilliant. Thank
Cheers.
you. Fantastic. Thanks, Freddie.